Charlie will be joining. If he won't, it's okay. It'll just be me and you, and we'll do the heavy lifting. But basically, we're gonna get started right now.
Okay.
Welcome to I don't know which one this is, maybe 13 or 14 of HW alumni at college, where we take some of our HW alum who are at our favorite colleges across the nation. Today we're at HW alumni at Rice, and we've got Felicity Failing, class of 21. Look at she's got the swag too. You got the Rice swag also. Charlie Mendez, class of 19, may be joining us. I see Rohan is on. What's up, Rohan? Most people will be watching this via recording, but as people join, they'll have the opportunity to ask Q&A, and we'll do that at the end. So if not, if everybody's ready, I guess we'll kind of sort of get started. Felicity, you want to do a little introduction about yourself?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, my name is Felicity Phelan. I was Harvard Westlake class of 21. I took a gap year and then I started at Rice, and I'm currently a junior there.
Nice. And the question I always ask, and I kind of sort of know the answer, but it's different from different people. It is Monday afternoon, probably what, 5:15 where you are? 4:15?
Yes.
Yeah. Why'd you do this? I know you're busy. You're at Rice.
Yeah. Well, I had a I would say I had both a very positive Harvard Westlake experience and I'm having a very positive Rice experience. So I was interested in the opportunity to um, always and forever to give back to Harvard Westlake and also to talk about how good Rice is going for me. I think Rice specifically has a fairly low profile at Harvard Westlake compared to some other schools. And I think that's undeserved. And I'm always looking for chances to sort of push Harvard Westlake kids more towards looking at Rice.
Yeah, I don't I kind of sort of agree with you just informally talking with the kids. And again, I love Harvard Westlake. I've been there 3 years, but it's kind of sort of a brand name transactional kind of experience when it comes to college. And I never get it. Rice is a top 20 school. I'm like, why would
Yeah.
I thought people would be flocking to Rice, but I guess like you said, it's kind of sort of in the ether of what it is. And so we can take this opportunity to have more people thinking about Rice, especially since HW is such like a kind of a STEM focused, STEM centered school. I think Rice would be a really good opportunity. My One of my older brothers, when I was in high school a long time ago, I went to a very similar HW kind of school. Felicity, he went to Rice, and so that's when it first
Oh,
my radar. And then being a college, kind of sort of a private school, college kind of nerd when it comes to rankings and alumni and stuff like that. It's always been there. I think, you know what? I think part of it is probably Dallas, right? Probably Texas. Um, there isn't like that focus there outside of maybe UT now. I know UT's getting popular.
yeah. Definitely it feels like a geographic effect. Even though even I know all my sort of friends and family in LA were kind of shocked when I was going to Texas, but like it's Houston, like it's the fourth biggest city in the
Yeah,
country. It's
exactly.
like it's not like, definitely there are colleges that will give you the opportunity to like go and live out amongst the cows and the cornfields if that's what you
Sure.
want. But that really is not what Rice is. And I think people kind of have it in their head that like, oh, well, Rice is in Texas and Texas is like
Yeah, yeah.
so different. But really
Yeah.
it's a city, it's a city, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, quiet as it kept, as we were talking about. And again, UT Austin is a great school, but if you go by those traditional measures of colleges and rankings, Rice is objectively a better school. So that's something to think about as we move forward in this. So if you don't mind, Felicity, let's get started. We'll have, like I said, we'll have about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, depending upon the discussion, and then there'll be 10 minutes for Q&A from parents or students as they come in. And of course, this will be recorded, so it'll be on the platform almost immediately after we're done. All right, with
Okay.
that being said, let's get rolling. Question one. What school, right, or what department are you in at Rice, and why was Rice the right choice for you?
Yeah. So I am an economics major. Economics is housed in the School of Social Sciences at Rice. I actually was not an econ major coming into Rice or applying to Rice. So that wasn't necessarily a factor in my decision to come to Rice, although Rice's economics department is wonderful. For me, I would say I knew I wanted to be in a city. That was a really big thing for me. I knew I was interested in looking at something sort of outside of LA and outside of California and getting that new experience. I also, Rice is one of, at least of the schools I was applying to, was one of the only schools that was offering like current student interviews as opposed to alumni interviews. And I really, really had a good student interview experience.
Can you talk
Uh,
about that? I've never heard of that. That's really
yeah.
cool.
So it was so I think that the common or sort of traditional college interview experience is an alumni, often potentially like an alumni from a while ago,
Yeah.
who's interviewing a prospective student. Rice does current seniors. So I, as a senior in high school, had my interview with someone who was then a senior at Rice. And she was able to give like a really good insight into not only like general stuff about the school and to learn about me, but also like I got to learn a lot about her experience as a student. And it became I left that conversation feeling that Rice had a very, very sort of warm, collaborative, collegiate atmosphere. And that was something I was interested in. Again, I said I loved Harvard Westlake, but I think Harvard Westlake does potentially lend itself to a slightly competitive or like pressure cooker kind of atmosphere. Um, and I was really struck and excited by how sort of friendly Rice seemed when she talked about it. As you said, Gracie, like Rice is objectively a very academically rigorous, very well-respected school. So I knew that I was going to be at an institution where I was challenged and where I was sort of set up to succeed. But I also wanted to balance that with, yeah, that sort of uh, warm and like welcoming feeling as well.
Sure. Did it come when you were, how did you kind of sort of get Rice on your list? Right.
This is
That's what I
embarrassing.
wanted
It's
to.
okay. So I I was on the like US News like
Huh?
20 schools and I was scrolling down and adding stuff on, right? So it wasn't until, I wrote like why rice essays and stuff and I found sort of programs in there I was excited about, but I would say it wasn't until that interview that I had where I was really like, oh, okay, like I really um I see it for myself, I guess, rather like it sort of came alive for me rather than just like, this is a school that makes sense with my numbers. Sounds good. Yeah.
Sure. Were there any other people your year that you knew of that were applying to Rice?
Not that I knew of at the time. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Rice was very sort of well-kept secret at Harvard Westlake, I would say. So um, I did not have any immediate friends who were going to Rice. There were three people, or counting me, three people from my Harvard Westlake graduating class who matriculated to Rice. But I wasn't aware of
Hmm.
anyone applying at the time.
Yeah. And did you apply early?
No. So I applied regular to Rice.
Okay. Okay. Good. I think it's one of the interesting that we do have, I think in the last 5 years, maybe six or seven that have gone to Rice. Three
Yeah.
of them are from your class, which I thought was what was interesting.
Yeah.
And reaching out to put this panel together. So I'm wondering if there's something unique or special with your class. But yeah, it's one of the things that I've always Rice and Hopkins. And Hopkins is a little more popular. People apply there, but they're just it's the same caliber school. We don't have many that matriculate, even though they're really high caliber schools. So it's all. I guess uh that's another function these panels can kind of serve. Our parents and our students can talk with you and will see your video and reach out to you and more questions when it comes to Rice and when it comes to the academic rigor. As we
Yeah.
go forth, the the second one I think is interesting, though I think I know the answer because I've been to Houston a few times also.
Mhm.
But still, it's different because nothing is quite like LA when it
Yeah.
comes diversity, and particularly Harvard Westlake. But
Yeah.
how diverse is your econ major, the School of Business or Economics at Rice, and the campus overall? What do you
Yeah.
think of the university?
Yeah. So I would say Rice's sort of demographic profile in terms of like racial groups is very, very similar to Harvard Westlake's. Um, that sort of sizable white and Asian portions, and then also like Black and Latino students. Rice is technically very interestingly a Hispanic serving institution. So the same
Uh-huh.
way that like HBCUs are defined by like historical high rates of like Black enrollment. Rice has historically and continuing very high rates of Hispanic students, which is part of that's geographic, right? Like being in Houston.
Uh-huh.
Houston, very diverse city, very, again, very that sort of same big city atmosphere as you would get in LA. If you want good, whatever type of cuisine, it is accessible to you. You're not sort of, that was something that or I guess I should say is that actually the sort of tiebreaker factor that came down to me choosing Rice versus another school was that diversity or was that sort of uh, feeling of being in that environment that I knew I wanted to be in. The other school I was looking at, also a wonderful school, but had a much smaller Asian population
Sure.
than Rice. I'm Asian American,
Uh-huh.
and it was just sort of scary to think about not being able to get good sort of like comfort food or like have that community on campus. So yeah, I would say very not much of a big adjustment or like big shock going Harvard Westlake to Rice. I would say one thing that I did not realize before I got there was that the like Jewish population in Houston and at Rice is much smaller than in Harvard Westlake or in LA.
Yeah.
That was really like a culture shock. Um, but still there's always going to be some bastion and some community on campus.
Sure.
Yeah.
What were your initial thoughts about Houston? What do you think now?
I like Houston. I think it has those city amenities that I was looking for. I will say Houston is very similar to LA, very, very car dependent.
Yeah.
If certainly if you are living off campus, while at Rice, which I do, and just honestly in general, it's really, really helpful to have a car in Houston. It's fun to explore Texas. I think of Houston as like um it's like a city, but every once in a while you get a little like Texas flavor thrown
Yeah.
in, like someone's wearing a cowboy hat or
Yeah.
someone's like wearing boots or something. I go to Austin a lot, really beautiful. Yeah, I like living in Houston. I think you do get used to the weather is the one thing. I'm from LA. I've lived in LA my whole life before Rice, and I did not, I think, have a concept of humidity before
Yeah.
I started at Rice. But you do get used to it. Like once you do it the first time, I was so worried that when I like came back for my second year, I would have to like do it all over again. But I find it pleasant now, honestly. Like I'll walk out in this like muggy, like 70-degree, like just like sweaty, humid swamp, and I'm like, oh, it's nice weather today. So yeah.
How far is Austin from Houston?
Yeah, Austin is a 3-hour drive. You're basically looking at 3 hours for Dallas. I don't go to Dallas much, but 3 hours to Dallas and then 3 hours to Austin. There's also this smaller like beach town, basically Galveston, which is like an hour to 90 minutes from
Uh,
Houston. Um, yeah.
That's interesting. Now, um, questions 3 and 4 on these panels are always the most popular because it's the how did you get into the school kind of questions, right? Like the what you write about and what you do during the summers. But I wanted to maybe deviate and talk with something specifically for you that would be unique to you because we talked before about gap year. And I want
Yeah.
to know first, could you talk about your gap year experience some, and then how or if it affected college and your decision and things like that? Because I think it's really important as we expand that option and we come across more and more alumni who use gap years not as a oh I didn't get into the college I wanted to get into, but more of a yeah this is a legitimate option to like expand my horizons and give me more of a picture of the world before I go. So can you
Yeah.
talk?
Yeah, absolutely. I consider my gap year like one of, if not the best decision I've ever made in my life. I so I worked retail for most of it, about like uh basically like a year, like 9 months to a year of it. And then for that last summer between like right before I went to college,
Yeah.
I went to the University of Oslo in Norway and I did a 6 week study abroad, like intensive Norwegian class using like the
Very
money
cool.
I'd saved up from working at Macy's.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, really great experience. For me, so I wasn't necessarily like set on doing a gap year from the very beginning. Or like that wasn't necessarily something I was thinking about my whole during my whole college application process. It was on my mind, like I was open to it. But it wasn't until, oh, and I should also clarify that I accepted an offer for Rice and then deferred it. I did not like
That was going to be
apply
my
for a
question.
gap year
Good.
or anything. Yeah. So I'd accepted an offer from Rice. And I would say one fairly large part of it was I had concerns about COVID. This remember I was graduating spring 2021 and I had heard the like horror stories of like the 2020 graduates who then were starting college with like Zoom class and like all of those things. So I was
Yeah.
concerned about that affecting my college experience. And also again, I love Harvard Westlake, but it can be kind of intense. And I felt like I wanted I wanted breathing room between that and starting college. So I was interested in having some time. One also I think to sort of leave the bubble, as it were. Like I did not work during high school at Harvard Westlake. Um, I and I felt like Harvard Westlake is a very special and very good and impactful environment, but it's different from like the real world, right? Like how many people, how my coworkers at Macy's or whatever, like how they live.
Mhm.
And I wanted to experience that rather than just like jumping from one ivory tower to the next ivory
Sure.
tower.
Sure.
Um, which yeah, I don't know. I thought it was character building. I thought it was yeah. Hi, Charlie.
I must have given Charlie a bad link. He said it went to a Google Doc. That's wholly my fault, Charlie.
Yes.
Oh,
Finish
no
your thought.
worries.
Finish your thought,
Good.
Felicity, and then Charlie will kind of get your
Oh,
perspective on the first two questions because we're only two questions in.
yeah. No, that was it. Just that it was a really good decision. It gave me sort of I felt not only do I think it was good for me personally, but it's been a really valuable experience professionally, even thinking about like you know, uh first semester freshman year, it gives you sort of like this whole level of experience beyond what people who are coming straight from high school have.
That's really well said. I think coming in, you may have a little more. You basically you just have a little more under your belt. You aren't going from. I thought the phrase you used from ivory tower to ivory tower was really poignant because that's what a lot of you end up doing, right? And again, that's the normal college, that's the natural normal college experience, whatever you call it. But I think for a lot of people, gap years would be a really good way to kind of sort of maybe give you something else going into college, or even if you're in college, you want to do so, take a break. But I really think the kind of sort of the that perspective gaining after high school and before college is huge. Charlie, thank you for taking the time today to join us, man. I appreciate it. Um, do you want to give us a little intro about yourself, and then we'll go forward from there?
Yeah, sure. I graduated Harvard Westlake in 19. I went straight to Rice. At Rice, I studied material science and nanoengineering, got a business minor, and I played on the football team all 4 years. So those were kind of my main three things. After graduation, I didn't really know what to do, so I got a job with my best friend from college, working for a geothermal energy startup in Salt Lake City. So mostly just data collection and field work, um, very tangential to what I studied. I did that for about 6 months. It was always supposed to be temporary. It was 14 days on, 14 days off. So we'd work for 14 days and then ski for 14 days. It was great.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that.
Fell in love with Salt Lake. Yeah, fell in love with Salt Lake City.
City.
I was determined to get a job not through applying and just networking, and it actually worked out that I met someone just playing soccer who knew a guy who knew a guy. So long story short, I ended up at a company called BlackRock Neurotech, and that's where I'm at now.
Hmm.
We specialize in brain-computer interface technology. So um, very similar to Neuralink, if you know it. Yeah. So I just kind of work as um, my title has analyst in it, but really I'm kind of a junior chief of staff. I just report directly to our CEO, help him with whatever he needs to get done. Sometimes it's more busy grunt work. Sometimes it's strategy, sitting in on his meetings, kind of just different fire, different day. Um, but yeah, here in Salt Lake City.
Cool. Thank you. So Salt Lake City is beautiful. One of my best friends is he's from Bountiful, Utah, which is right outside of
Mm.
Salt Lake City. He got married in Salt Lake City. It was my first time there. And he's actually a friend of Harvard Westlake. And I went to I was like, this place is ridiculous. Like it was very
Oh,
nice.
it's
Very,
gorgeous. It's a hobby city, so there's
uh-huh.
always something to do. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I asked Felicity this question, so you get the same question also.
Okay.
Obviously, you're working, you're busy, right? It's the afternoon, right? Monday afternoon. Why'd you take the time to do this? What made you say when I reached out to you? What made you say, yeah, I'll do this?
Uh, Personally, is because Harvard Westlake gave me a lot. I was on financial aid. I wouldn't have been able to go without it. So um, I figured, why not give back? That's the first part. The second part is I think Rice is very underrated in terms of the as Harvard Westlake. At least when I was there, I was the only person to go. And then again, I probably wouldn't have considered it if I didn't get an offer to play football. I had the what I would call, I don't know how it's changed, the typical Harvard Westlake Ivy or bust mentality.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and when
still
I've
there.
told, yeah, okay, good to know. And I mean, like, and it's Rice. It's
Right
it's
there.
very comparable. So it's
Yeah.
not like I can, say anything else. But when I told people I was going to, not necessarily Rice, just Texas, it was like, oh, good for you. It was such a,
Yeah.
it is like I get it. We
I
grew up
see
in
you
LA,
laughing.
but Texas is Texas. Yeah, yeah. I think sorry, there's this thing covering it, but your name's Felicity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You get it. Yeah, everyone
I
knows.
said something. I was gonna say I had this is such a Harvard Westlake story. I told someone, either some kid or some parent, that I was going to Rice, and they said it was a tough year. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And I get it. Some people may not culturally fit in Texas, but then I don't realize Rice is in the center of Houston, which is one of the most diverse cities in the country. It doesn't. It feels just like a little microcosm of LA. I don't. It didn't really feel all too different if that's what
Different.
people are worried about. There weren't people like slinging guns on their back across the street. Like it's downtown Houston. Like
Yeah.
it's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's yeah. And so I think people need to look at it better and actually kind of know what it is before they make a decision
I
based
agree with
on
both.
what their neighbor's going to say.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, especially and like to be totally transparent and honest, you all are alums, you all are graduate Harvard Westlake. When it comes to college, it's very like brand namey, you
Yep.
know, and like
Hmm.
Rice is consistently a top 15, a top 20 school like every single year. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we apply to all these other schools. And I don't want to cast the aspersion on these schools, so let me stop. But like, there are a lot of schools that are more popular that like objectively aren't as good academically, and I don't understand why why there would be the focus. But I think you and Felicity have kind of sort of pointed out some of the reasons why that is. So the first question is, and now you're an alum, so you can give us that alum perspective also that we're looking for. What did you make? Did you know what you were going to major in going into Rice? What did you major in, and why? And
Hmm.
why was Rice the right school for you?
Uh, yeah, I went in thinking I'd do mechanical engineering. I was just always stronger STEM. Um, Took one class, didn't love it, and then I just picked the next coolest sounding major. I went in with the mentality of college. I was like, I don't really care what I major in. I read one article and I was like, why your college major doesn't actually matter. And
Yeah.
I just kind of let that be my personal philosophy. And so I was like, I enjoy STEM classes. I'm gonna just take STEM classes and do what sounds cool. So that's how I
Happens.
ended up with a material science and nano engineering degree. So yeah.
Just kind
Yeah.
of
And
backed
then I
into it, huh? Okay.
Yeah, and I did a business minor just because my athletic academic advisor just was like, it's 6 courses, just do it. We'll make it work for you. And so I was lucky in that regard. They held our hand throughout the entire process because they
Yes.
don't trust athletes. But yeah, they made it work.
And what did you have any offers from any other schools?
Rice was the first offer I got. I was talking with other schools, but I think is Miss Slattery still there?
Yes, she is.
Okay, so she was my dean, and I went into her office one day and I was like, "Hey, I got an offer from Rice. I feel like I'd be an idiot if I didn't accept it." And she just looked at me and she's like, "Yes, you would be." It's like, "Okay, great." And then I walked out and I called the coach and I accepted it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know Miss Slattery is awesome resource. She's the head of the upper school now, so she's not a
Oh,
dean
fantastic.
anymore. But yeah, awesome, awesome resource. So that's an interesting story. And then the second question, and you'll be all caught up. With it was about diversity. What did you see? And you kind of sort of already answered it before when you talked about Houston being downtown and everything. What did you see diversity wise, like in your classes, and then like in Houston and Rice overall while you were there?
Yeah. Um, I feel like I got a unique perspective. First of all, Houston, very diverse. That was great. Classes, I'd say very heavily diverse. Large Asian population, I'd say, but it wasn't very white dominated, which is nice.
Yeah,
I also got the third perspective being on the football team.
yeah,
Um, and that was interesting because that did not reflect the rest of the the Rice community. Not that there wasn't a lot of black people at Rice, but the football team was about 50-50, and it felt very culturally different
yeah.
than the rest of the school. But I think there were definitely certain clubs that, accentuated different ethnicities, different groups. Um, I grew up Jewish, so I was able to go to some of the Jewish events. That was cool. There's a big population. Um, Kind of harder, Oh, I'm also Brazilian. Found a group of Brazilian, students as well. So I would hope there's something for everyone. I know being Jewish and Brazilian is two of the larger minorities, so easier to find people. But at least from what I saw, um, a lot more. I won't say a lot more diverse than other colleges because I don't know what their colleges, but you know, fairly diverse, and I don't think people really felt singled out. I think also because of our financial aid policy, I'd say wealth diversity is a big thing. It didn't have an elitist feel,
Yeah.
um, and I appreciated that a lot because I don't know, something I thought about, worried about, something I heard about from other colleges, and I'm not going to, bag on other colleges, but never felt like there was elitism, which I loved.
It's funny you would say that. I think Felicity, you were echoing a little bit of that
Yeah.
also.
I was gonna say if I can, I also not gonna name names, but yes, I agree with you. That's something that resonates with me, something I am very happy I haven't seen at Rice and something that my friends at other colleges have reported.
We're all caught up. We're on an even playing field now. So question three is the one that a lot of parents and a lot of students they take notes. So here we go. Charlie, if you remember, Felicity, if you remember, what did you do the summers after your sophomore and junior year at Harvard Westlake?
Yeah.
Don't all jump in at once.
Sophomore year, I was tough. I had to be on campus for
Yeah.
football those summers, so I was kind of restricted. We would have summer training, which in Houston not fun. But I did. They encouraged us to get internships, which is cool. So the first summer I got an internship. Yeah, it was kind of iffy. I waited till the last second to do it, so it was unpaid. Um, it was for what at the time claimed to be an AI company, but it was just I don't know, pre-programmed speech to text, I would
Okay.
say. I don't know. It was interesting. The next summer was better. Through football connections, I got an internship paid actually this time, which was nice, through a small boutique consulting firm in Houston called Athenian. And that was founded by former Rice football players. So they kind of would like take a couple every year. So it was I wouldn't say it was handed to me, but my head coach pretty much set it up, made the connection work. So,
That
you know,
works. That's one of the biggest advantages of playing a sport in college is those
yeah,
connections, just
yeah,
the possibility, right? And Harvard Westlake, what'd you do after your sophomore summer, Harvard Westlake, junior summer, Harvard Westlake?
Oh, this is Harvard Westlake, so I answered the question completely wrong then.
That's okay. That's okay. Felicity, you can feel free to share what you did in college also. But yeah, Charlie, I think they're looking
Okay.
for what were those things, those experiences that you may have touched upon or reflected
Mhm.
upon when you were applying to Rice.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I worked at a sports camp like that. I had summer training for football here and there.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, I don't think I didn't get a real job until college. Not a
Yeah.
real job. I didn't get like a more academic or college prep job, I would say. I just kind of,
Good.
yeah, I just did whatever
Excellent.
I thought was fun. And that meant
Yeah.
playing wiffle ball with kids over the summer and getting paid to do it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And still ended up in Rice, not bad. I think that's important for a lot of our kids to hear who swear they need to do a super duper prestigious internship to get into these elite schools. Excellent. Felicity, what about you?
Yeah, similar to Charlie, I like barely remember, but I believe I took well, this is also my one of those years was like COVID for
Yeah.
me, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, the summer after sophomore year, I took a class at Santa Monica College, an ASL class, American Sign Language. And
Uh-huh.
then the summer after junior year, I took a linguistics class at
Okay.
SMC because they didn't offer the next level of ASL. And I was like, oh, well, that seems similar. Um, I also, um, I'm trying to think, summer before senior year. So summer between junior
Uh-huh.
and senior, I
Yep.
wrote my college essays during the summer. That's something I
Okay.
always recommend to high schoolers that I think really was helpful for me is basically because a lot of schools don't change their prompts year to year. So I would
Yeah.
basically like one per week, like this week I'm writing this school, this week I'm writing this school. And then that way I was able to really like focus on school stuff and sort of refining and tweaking.
Yeah.
Um, during the actual like senior year. And because Charlie did it, I'll also talk about like summers at Rice.
Please
Because
do.
I think it also speaks to the like so I'm a junior right now. This past summer was my summer after sophomore year. I was interning at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas.
Nice.
That was something that was very exciting for me as an econ major, but also I would say very much facilitated by like the Rice one, I think that the rice brand name within Texas, I know we sort of talk about how we're not seeing rice sort of pop up in those same conversations at Harvard Westlake, but in terms of like Texas and Houston and Charlie, I'm sure you can speak to this too, is like rice is like the place to be. Like
It's the
people
best
will,
school in Texas.
yeah, it is. Um, so
Everyone in
really,
the South knows it too. Not that
yeah, and
many
it's not
people from
just
not
generally
that not
is
that people from LA are moving out there, but
the real ones now.
yeah.
And most likely, I had a really great experience with the Fed this past summer. Most likely, I'll be either in Dallas or at one of the other locations this coming summer.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you feel the career center. It sounds like the opportunities for advancement professionally for both of you, Rice helped to facilitate as well.
I would agree with that.
Nice. HW, your local, your friendly HW Works director likes to hear that as far as colleges and the boost they can be given is concerned. Okay. The next one. If you're comfortable sharing, so far everybody has been. What did you write about in your personal statement, in your college essay for Rice?
I have no idea. Um, yeah, plus, why don't you go first? Let
Yeah,
me
I
see. Let me
can.
rack my brain.
So my common app, while I was at Harvard Westlake, I was really involved in the slam poetry team, which I
Sure.
think is still there, the like spoken word team. And I also, as a child, had a speech impediment and did a
Yeah.
lot of speech therapy for that. So my essay was basically looking at like the parallels and how in both in speech therapy and in spoken word, you're paying a lot of attention to how your voice sounds, the sort of mechanical movements you're making to make sounds and like what the impact of your voice is. I applied as a linguistics major. But basically that sort of parallel and a reflection on like what does how your voice sounds and how your ideas are conveyed, how does that relate to like how you see yourself and how you think of yourself? So, college essay stuff.
Yeah. Any jogging in the memory, Charlie?
No, I
No.
remember. No,
The big
yeah.
brain, like
What's that?
I don't know. I feel like the classic are like Why I Love My Grandma, like The Big Game,
Yeah,
Leg into
yeah.
Sugar.
God. Uh, no, I don't remember. That's funny. I actually don't. I remember I wrote two. The one I didn't turn in was more because my mom made me do the essay writing workshop. So I wrote satirical one on how much I hated writing essays and how it goes against my personality. I was like, this is so original. And then I was like, no, they'd kill me if I turned that in. So I didn't actually turn that one in. And I don't remember what the real one was. So yeah, sorry.
That's okay. That's quite all right. And then the last question. And again, I think you all are both giving us such a feel for the answer to this, but we'll ask it directly. Felicity, as far as you're concerned, do you feel Rice is preparing you? And then Charlie, as far as you're concerned, do you feel Rice has prepared you for your career and or life after Rice?
I do feel like that. I mentioned how helpful both the career services as like an organization and like the sort of Rice brand name and network were in getting the job I had this past summer and sort of opening up that network. I would say, I think we talked a bit about the sort of regional brand appeal that Rice has, and that is something that really, really is so helpful and so impactful. But also, it's like for me as someone who's not trying to stay in Texas like long term, that
Yeah,
can always be like a starting point, right? Like the hardest job to get is your first job, right? And then from then on, it's someone who knows someone and a manager has an old colleague who does whatever. So I think there's a tremendous amount of value in like having that brand name and name recognition within the region to then
yep,
sort of set you up to perform well and then to go to wherever it is that you want in the future. And also the academic instruction, all of those sorts of things are wonderful as well.
yeah,
Um, I'll say yes and no. I think for some of my friends it would be a flat yes across the board. They did a very typical path. They went to Rice, they studied hard. Now they're earning a bunch of money as consultants, investment bankers, common path. Um, and one that some people enjoy that wasn't for me. I'd say I'm not really using my degrees, so to speak, right now. I will say that Rice made me a better person. And I
mm,
think that's the way it prepared me the
mm,
best. Rice didn't give me the specific skills I need. And for some people, they need it. If you're an engineer, like you can actually have maybe a toxic personality and, be a genius and still get a job. Right. But for me right now, a lot of my job is just interpersonal communication. Rice humbled me. Rice kind of like gave me a better sense of the real world. I'll be honest, I think Harvard Westlake was a bit of this microcosm that's very different than anything,
yeah,
other people expected. I love my time at Harvard Westlake, don't get me wrong, but Rice kind of, opened my eyes a bit more. And I think it just made me a better person in general. And this is something I wish someone had told me before I graduated college, is that first year out of college is kind of difficult for some people. A lot of my friends in Salt Lake City went to different places and they all just kind of had the same, oh, we're in the real world now. Like,
yeah,
regardless of what college you go to, I don't know. There are some paths that are very linear, but everyone I met here in Salt Lake City, which I'd say isn't normally the typical career path. People do some interesting stuff out here, but um, it's led them to a place of just kind of like figuring it out post college, and their college gave them a lot of tools. Um, but if you kind of are in the position where you want to explore what life is out there, college can't give you everything. So that's why, for me, it was like I think about my time at Rice not as in what I learned in the classroom, but just what I learned in the community, because that's really the biggest thing I'm learning now. It's just the personal growth rather than the actual knowledge based growth.
I'll curb my potty mouth. That's effing powerful. Rice made me a better person. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, I love
That
that
is
place.
a ringing endorsement for a school. Okay, and that was it for our questions. We got about 6 minutes left. Rohan, you're on here. Do you have any questions for Charlie or Felicity?
Yeah, sure. I'll ask a question. I'm Rohan. I'm a senior here at Harvard Westlake. Rice is one of my top choices because I'm looking to play basketball. I play basketball here at Harvard Westlake, and I'm looking to play basketball at the next level and been in contact with Rice. And also, I want to study sports management, and I know Rice has an amazing sports management program, and I've heard lots and lots about it. I've already submitted my Rice application, and I'm excited. So I know a lot about Rice, but I'll ask your guys' opinion on what I think is pretty unique to Rice in the residential college system. So what are your guys's, how was your experience with that, and what are your thoughts on it?
I'm glad you asked that, Rohan, because I've also been dying to know Charlie's college. Like anytime I meet anyone from Rice,
Brown.
I'm at Duncan.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, no, do you have strong thoughts? Do you want to go first?
I am gonna let you go first because I'm looking up the name of this sports management professor that loves when
Yeah.
students reach out to them.
I will also say like
Um,
sports, I have a lot of friends who are in sports management at Rice, and yes, phenomenal, world renowned, I don't know, nationally renowned, like just really, really good program. I hear really amazing things from them there. And a couple of friends who went to like the Paris Olympics recently through the sport management department. So yes, good choice, really good department. Yes, the residential college system. I really like it. Oh, Tom Stallings, he's great. I really like it. I would say it's sort of something I liked about it was that if I went to we call the cafeteria the servery, so excuse me, but if I went to the servery and I got my lunch and then I went into this college building like the Commons, I would always have someone to sit with. Like there would always be someone who I knew, maybe not like my best friend in the world, but like someone who I knew who was like a friendly face and I was able to um sit and have that connection and feel very welcome. I think that contributes to that sort of collegiate, like non-elitist atmosphere that we sort of identified with Rice. Um, it's the tour guides, they tell us to call it like Hogwarts houses. It's similar to like Greek life in that like you all live together and they throw like parties and stuff. But for me, I think the biggest impact was just having that sort of built-in kinship and like built-in smaller group of people to sort of navigate, especially those initial days of like being in a new place, not knowing anyone. As we said at the beginning, three people from Harvard Westlake in my year matriculated to Rice, but I took a gap year, so I didn't know anyone coming in. Like I knew zero people. And having that sort of smaller environment with familiar faces was something I enjoyed.
yeah. Um, a lot of my friends were from, I was in Brown, just one of the names there. They're all from Brown. I met my roommate on moving day in the elevator at like 9 a.m. And he was the guy I moved out to Salt Lake City with. So you definitely have a small community. Um, and it's fun. Each has its own tradition, its own culture, and stuff like that. So it's kind of just like it's a built-in community that you have. I know I've heard from some people kind of towards the end of their senior year, they said they wish they had branched out a bit more. And I think that's just good advice to kind of keep in the back of your head. But at the end of the day, you come in as a freshman. I didn't, I mean, you'll be lucky if you come to play basketball, you'll know your basketball team. I was lucky I knew the football team because I think I graduated Harvard Westlake and 10 days later was moved into the dorms.
I'm gonna
Um,
say if you're playing a sport, that's that's
yes, but
that's
but but I honestly I'm sorry, I was around my football team 20 to 30 hours a week, sometimes more. I wanted to get away from them. And so I had this second community that I was able to be with, and that was fantastic. And I lived with a house of five guys from my college, well, one not from. That was kind of like passed down from year to year, which was fun. I met a guy in Chicago um, at a neuroscience convention, and he lived in my exact same bedroom because he was from Houston. So yeah, I like this community. It's kind of cool. Rice is small, but it's a great way to connect to people. On your sports management thing, just real quick, I put an email in the chat. That professor absolutely loves when young people reach out to him and just if you phrase it as advice, he'll like try and take you under his wing, so to speak. I was even sports management. I had one conversation with him and he emailed me and said, let's have a call about your career. So I don't know if he can help your application, but he might be able to if you guys hit it off well. But he's worth emailing. He loves that sort of thing, so it wouldn't be a burden on him.
That's funny because I actually connected with Professor Stallings like a year and a half ago now, and we've had many conversations in this last year, and he's actually helping my application. And he's amazing. You know, he's the one who
Yeah.
was my first kind of initial contact at Rice, and he's told me so much about Rice, the sports management program there, and it's kind of the one who piqued my interest in Rice. So that's
Oh,
funny that you
perfect. Yeah, there
let
you
us know.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's very emblematic of the this because all my not all, but most of my teammates did sports management and they loved it. It's the perfect thing to do when you're playing a sport as well, because they realize that you're going to have to prioritize being an athlete here and there overall academics. But yeah, so it's good,
Feeling I am overwhelmed with the Rice love and camaraderie and guidance and mentorship that happened on this call. It's 4 o'clock, everybody. Um, Felicity, Charlie, thank you so much. Rohan, hopefully you'll be on this call next year or the year after, providing the same kind of insight and advice to current Harvard Westlake students. Obviously, the majority of people are going to see this. It's going to be a recording. I have Felicity and Charlie. I have your works profiles that are linked to. I also have your LinkedIn also. So you'll hear from Harvard Westlake people through those two avenues. If there isn't anything else, I give you back your Monday afternoon, Monday evening. Know that you've done a good deed. This will be up before midnight tonight on the platform. So for those of you who missed the Rice call, obviously for other reasons, which are completely understandable, you'll be able to see the recording and reach out to Felicity and Charlie with questions. With that being said, everyone have a wonderful Monday afternoon. Felicity, Charlie, thank you again. Rohan, good luck. And I'll see everybody when I see them.
Thank you.
Sounds
Thank you
good. Thanks,
guys.
guys. Bye.
Bye.